Chapter 116. Lu Shu regained his peace and ate joyously. To be honest, the military food was really good. Classmates by the side looked towards Lu Shu with confused expressions, thinking that he was rather weird. How could he eat so calmly after beating someone up? Jiang Shui, who was squatting beside Lu Shu, ate as he said, "Well slapped." Lu Shu nodded his head. "Actually, I thought about revenge. I'm not a very scheming person, so when there's anger, it should be settled on the spot." As he spoke, Lu Shu had his eyes set on Jiang Shui's plate. This guy really had a poor appetite. "You can't finish? Give me your chicken then, I'm still not full." Jiang Shui didn't mind, and gave all his chicken to Lu Shu. "Eat quickly. Once we're done we can go back to our tent to train." Train? Lu Shu was stunned for a moment. "We've come so far just to train? Magical energy is much stronger near ancient remains, so places like this has always been a good training location. So now you know why experts in the world need all these ancient remains. Even if they don't acquire anything at the site of the ancient remains, they could save months or even years of training by training in these locations." Jiang Shui continued, "Even the surrounding areas of ancient remains have a strong presence of magical energy. The amount of magical energy inside the ancient remain would be even more unbelievable, but we can't go in. So that's why." After all, Lu Shu felt it was rather extreme for them to come here in the middle of the night just to see and understand what ancient remains were. Only now did he understand that the ancient remains were actually a training resource. But Lu Shu had a problem. Everyone but him could train openly. Who trained while singing a Twinkle Stars? No one had ever seen such a weird sight. Damn the system. This meant that others could rapidly improve their abilities by training at this place while he could only watch? Lu Shu couldn't say this to anyone, no one would understand his predicament. He stared at the skies helplessly only to notice Li Xiao on the mountain staring towards the north seriously. This fatty. It was rare to see his serious side. At this moment, Shifei came over and told everyone, "Gather back at the tents to train. The magical energy here is several times stronger than that of the best magical land in Luocheng. This sort of opportunity is hard to come by, make good use of it. But don't train blindly. While increasing your training speed and efficiency, remember your fundamentals. After training for some time, remember to pause and stabilize your progress as the training speed here would be much faster than what a normal person is used to." After he finished, Shifei led everyone towards the two tents allocated for class F9. Lu Shu then noticed that aside from the students who were training, Shifei and his company were training as well. It made sense. In the past, everyone would differentiate teachers and students as they felt that teachers, unlike students, didn't need to learn. But here, everyone had a common identity regardless of whether you were a teacher or student. Everyone was a practitioner. Lu Shu sensed his surroundings. Shifei seemed to have reached Class D after that previous battle. Immense energy exuded from his body, energy exceeding the power of his own celestial energy. Could it be that he was awarded magical stones after being injured in the line of duty? This was possible. The magical energy here was extremely rich and could accommodate everyone's training at the same time. Once a piece of cheese was consumed, another piece would appear. The energy was relentless. Everyone had smiles on their faces as they trained with their eyes shut, no one was an exception. The overjoyed ones were the students who could not afford magical land, and those who initially required half a year to get to Class E, would get there in half a month by training here. But Lu Shu suddenly thought of something. He didn't rely merely on a Twinkle Stars for training, he also used people as a form of training. For example, his chat groups, wasn't everything he did to affect more people? Now, these adorable classmates were right by his side. He didn't have much distress points currently, so he should be getting some from these classmates. Lu Li was silently overjoyed. Although the magical land his household owned improved his training immensely, it was nothing compared to training here. It was like having double experience in a video game. No, not double. It was at least a few times more. And to be honest, although that plot of magical land at home was rich in magical energy, its side effects were extremely troubling. Thinking of himself possibly balding, Luli was frustrated. Initially, he didn't know it was caused by the magical land. There was no other practitioner at home, and no one to guide him, which was why he trained hard every day and disregarded the fact that his back felt cold every night while training. Not only was the magical energy here rich, there weren't any side effects. Luli wished that this ancient remains could be accessed forever, for him to train here for life. Estimating the training speed now, together with the training over this period of time, the original time of 36 days to complete the Mysterious Senses chapter could now be cut to 3 days. As for Shifei's advice of not training blindly, Luli kept it in mind as well. After all, the estimated time of 3 days was just a theoretical estimate. As he initiated his training, huge amounts of magical energy surged through his body. Being of Tier B aptitude, he could make use of magical energy faster and more efficiently than those of lower tiers. Class rep. Let's chat, a voice sounded beside Lu Li's ear. Lu Li's heart sank. Wasn't this Lu Shu's voice? He stared at Lu Shu coldly. Why are you chatting with me instead of training? I want to train even if you don't want to. From Lu Li's distress, plus 188. Who agreed to let you train? Forgot that you insulted me during the mealtime just now. Lu Shu had been thinking for some time. Actually, most of the students didn't give him much of a basis to hate them, so to delay their training would be quite uncalled for. But no worries, there was Lu Li. Although it was against logic to just target one victim, Lu Shu didn't have much to care about at this point in time. It's okay. You can train while I speak, Lu Shu said amicably. When I was younger at Fu Li Orphanage, there was once I had a chance to eat a watermelon. The teacher then told us not to eat the seeds as the seeds would cause a watermelon to grow from our heads. I didn't believe it and ate a few seeds. Everything still turned out fine. Lu Li forced his eyes shut and continued training. There was no danger of mistraining or going overboard while training the yin-yang kinship of the three, as it was just a very theoretical and generic form of training. But the problem was that Lu Shu was making a lot of noise beside him while training. Sometimes, he could not help but listen to the contents of Lu Shu's words, losing his focus in the process, resulting in him having to restart. While Lu Shu enjoyed the income of a few hundred points from Lu Li every once in a while, he had already earned a few celestial fruits from Lu Li. He suddenly asked curiously, Class rep, have you had melon seeds when you were younger? Everyone would think when asked a question, disrupting his train of thought. From Lu Li's distress, plus 999. Chapter 117. Lu Li really wanted to fight with Lu Shu right now. This scum's constant harassment at the side would disrupt any normal person's training. And Lu Shu, this scum, was well versed in the art of harassment. Under his non-stop blabbers, your attention would slowly be directed away and all of a sudden, he would disrupt your thoughts. But it was impossible to beat him in a fight. Images from the incident tonight where Lu Shu's one slap caused that fatty to faint was still etched within his mind. Still clueless what happened, thinking about that scene instilled a fear of Lu Shu in him. It truly was because Lu Shu, at that point in time, was too calm. Lu Li had never fought anyone since young and he couldn't figure out how Lu Shu had suddenly become so tough. Lu Li was hoping for the Mysterious Senses chapter to be imparted and to complete the large cycle as soon as possible. This 2,700-pound strength would definitely be enough. Although Lu Shu was a strength-type metahuman, 2,700-pound strength was already past the upper limit of a Class F strength type, meaning that Lu Li would win. The yin-yang kinship of the three training method was perfected under the hands of Shishue Jin. With many benefits and no risk of mistraining, it was purely an accumulation of magical energy to break through the various levels. But with someone's constant harassment at the side, it was a completely different situation. Lu Li had originally felt that 3 days was enough to complete the mysterious sense chapter, but now he had lost confidence and started to think that it might need 4 days to complete, maybe even 5. It was dawn and all the Daoyuan students had known an incident. A Tier B aptitude training expert in class F9 angered another low-ranking Tier F aptitude classmate. In the end, this low-ranking classmate gave up on his opportunity to train outside the remains in order to launch a series of suicidal attacks, sacrificing himself to take revenge. Lu Shu smacked his lips. This suicidal attack was too brilliant. But while no one was noticing, he would pretend to go to the toilet occasionally and eat a celestial fruit that he just got. He ate 9 in one night, and this progress was definitely on par with the rest, maybe even faster. Under no harassments, Lu Li's training progress in one night would be equal to that of 6 magical stones. Lu Shu estimated that after staying here for 2 days, he would be able to light up the 4th star. Has Lu Xiaoyu slept yet? Lu Shu wanted to give Lu Xiaoyu a call but realized that there was no signal at all, probably because someone had jammed it. But he had given Lu Xiaoyu some instructions before he left, and Lu Xiaoyu was capable of taking care of herself. Both of them met every day, bantered every day, and ate meals together. This sudden separation was making Lu Shu miss the young lady. He also had no idea when this remains trip would end. On the other hand, Lu Xiaoyu had just woken up and was wearing her little pajamas when she asked, "Lu Shu, is breakfast ready?" No reply. Lu Xiaoyu only just realized that Lu Shu wasn't home, and there was a momentary emptiness within her heart, and something just didn't feel right. She turned around and went back to sleep. In the morning, everyone went to queue up for breakfast. When it was Lu Shu's turn, the head chef gave him a lot of meat, and while others only got 1 egg, Lu Shu got 2. Lu Shu expressed his gratefulness, and the head chef smiled, "You're welcome. I saw that you did not eat your fill yesterday." The students behind added, "Head chef, I didn't eat well last night too. Can I have 2 eggs? How much do you eat?" The head chef was annoyed. The students behind were confused. Why could this scum in front have more? And a whole plate of beef? From Wang Zhao's distress, plus 144. All these distress points were targeted at Lu Shu. Lu Shu smiled. He knew that the head chef must have developed a liking for him after seeing what he did. Yesterday, one of the soldiers gave up his stool only to hear that fatty's complaints, but there was also a rule that prohibited them from taking any actions. But honestly speaking, if the soldier really made a move, given a practitioner's strength and physique, he might not be able to win. So Lu Shu's one slap was really satisfying for them, which made them like him. During breakfast, a soldier at the side passed Lu Shu a stool. "The platoon leader is away, so this is an extra stool." The other students were so envious. Jiang Shui came over with her plate, and Lu Shu shifted over slightly. "Come, take a seat." Jiang Shui laughed, "It's okay. Such a small chair wouldn't fit 2 of us." Speaking of which, you harassed Lu Li the whole of last night, which really damaged him a lot, but you yourself also lost progress? It's okay, I can still awaken. I can just arm wrestle him the next 2 days, Lu Shu replied indifferently. But in fact, he knew that his own progress wasn't little at all. Although capturing a soul sheep wasn't right, Lu Shu realized that the wool on Lu Li this sheep was thick. A never-ending supply of wool. The students at the side were appalled by what Lu Shu said. This Lu Li had better not arm wrestle Lu Shu. If he were to awaken again, no one could beat him. But a joke was still a joke. They only had that thought, but no one truly felt that Lu Shu could awaken again just by arm wrestling Lu Li. That would be too childish, and awakening the first time was just luck. No one felt that Lu Shu could awaken a second time. At this moment, countless military trucks drove down the mountain, and the students all stopped their discussions to watch, not knowing what was going on. When the military trucks stopped in an open area, a few thousand students alight, and some started puking from car sickness. Jiang Shui spoke to Lu Shu. "These are the Daoyuan students from Yuzhou. They were brought here overnight to increase their training speed." Lu Shu was enlightened. Seemed like the Daoyuan classes from everywhere would not let this opportunity by. Remains this kind of thing was too beneficial for training. Given the limited production of magical stones, they would jump at any opportunities. They had to keep up with the rest of the world. Seeing the arrival of so many competitors and that others could train in peace, Lu Li was devastated. Whoever walked past Lu Li would give him a look of sympathy, which was something he could never tolerate. He was a Tier B genius and didn't need anyone's sympathy. He had only one thing in mind: to create a training opportunity and complete the Mysterious Senses chapter before beating Lu Shu to a pulp. Chapter 118. When the morning came, Lu Shu was still speaking beside Lu Li. He spoke of his stories from his childhood days all the way to high school. Most of it was made up, and Lu Shu was about to run out of ideas. But slowly, Lu Li managed to resist Lu Shu. Although his training was slower than others, he slowly managed to stabilize himself and could train while listening to Lu Shu's stories. When night came, Lu Li snuck outside to train on the hill. He wanted to make use of the available resources to speed up his training. Only after leaving Lu Shu did he feel the true bliss of being able to train alone. His training progress was much faster, at least 3 times faster than before. As he was training, a voice ringed beside his ear, "Look at the sky." Lu Li looked up instinctively and regretted immediately. This was obviously Lu Shu's voice, but as he looked at Lu Shu continued, "Why is there nothing in the sky?" From Lu Li's distress, plus 999. Lu Li didn't have any mood to speak to Lu Shu, so he closed his eyes and continued to train. Damn, the ancient remains. Hearing the words ancient remains, Lu Li opened his eyes only to hear Lu Shu continue, "Are still not open yet." From Lu Li's distress, plus 999. As he earned another wave of distress points, Lu Shu went to somewhere no one could see to eat his fruits and upon finishing, returned to harass Lu Li for more distress points. Although Lu Li was slowly getting used to it, his distress points did not decrease. At the break of dawn, the red clouds glowed and the sunlight shone brightly through them, lighting up the great earth. The entire Beimang mountain was filled with tents and numerous Daoyuan students could be seen training. At this moment, Lu Shu was satisfied with his earning of celestial fruits. He had lit up his 4th star. With Lu Li by his side, Lu Shu's training was indeed faster than his original speed. He then wondered how many points did he earn from Lu Li exactly. In the day, there were many foreign faces in the military camp, all of which belonged to Daoyuan students. But everyone did not interact much, focusing solely on training and only taking a break for the occasional meal. With the form teachers in charge, there weren't any unsightly squabbles during mealtimes as well. There were more than 6,000 Daoyuan students in the military camp now, with Luocheng contributing the greatest number of students. On the other hand, some small cities only had 200 students in Daoyuan class. Lu Shu wanted to find out more about the competence of practitioners from other cities, but never had the chance to do so. He had relaxed completely now. To be honest, harassing Lu Li had taken up much of his energy as well. He was tired, but the results of his training were obvious. The 4th star generated much newfound strength and celestial energy for him. If he could only sustain the celestial cloak for half an hour in the past, he could definitely sustain it for 45 minutes without any issue with his newfound power. With every improvement he made, Lu Shu experienced new changes in his body and abilities. Since he already made a breakthrough, Lu Shu didn't see the need to harass Lu Li anymore. It wasn't that he didn't want to disturb him, it was just that he didn't plan on thinking so hard just to annoy him. He then found Lu Li and sat beside him. As Lu Shu fiddled with his phone, he asked Lu Li, "Class rep, let's arm wrestle." "Class rep, let's arm wrestle." He continued to play that recording from his phone until its battery went flat. Lu Shu looked around but was disappointed that a charging port couldn't be found in such a large military camp. Even if he harassed Lu Li without thinking much, he could amass close to 10,000 distress points in a day. Lu Shu felt that his victim would be annoyed to death by him soon. Every Daoyuan student of Luocheng knew about Lu Shu's constant harassment of Lu Li. In time, everyone started being nice to Lu Shu and no one dared to even queue in front of him during meal times. Everyone gave in to Lu Shu, get your meal first. They were afraid that they might suffer the same fate as Lu Li now that no one would meddle in these minor affairs as all the form teachers were training hard as well. In fact, training was the most important thing for practitioners. As practitioners, all the class form teachers would naturally prioritize training. This was also the instructions from their superiors because Shi Fei and his company were the true fighting force of the country, as Daoyuan students could not be relied upon yet. Lu Shu didn't excuse himself from their formalities. Here, Jiang Shui, you queue in front of me. Get your food first. The people beside him were annoyed. It was nice of us to allow you to get your food first, why did you get another person? From Yuan Chaojuan's distress, plus 17. From Lu Shu didn't mind the wave of over 1,000 distress points. After all, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. For days past, the Daoyuan students continued reaching new heights in their training with the rich magical energy available. Students with poorer aptitudes began completing the mysterious matter chapter, while those who had better aptitudes like Jiang Shui started mastering the mysterious senses chapter. But apart a handful of students, most of the students did not manage to catch up with the training of the form teachers. Actually, the aptitudes of Shi Fei and his company were high as well. At an early stage, they could reach class E. How bad could their aptitudes be? Sending them as Daoyuan class form teachers, they definitely were chosen with being able to be respected by their students in mind. By this time, Lu Shu didn't harass Lu Li at all. Jiang Shui and he went over to the site for the other schools to see what the other students were like. But what Lu Shu did not expect was that the students around Lu Li were breaking through to class C1 by one while Lu Li was still some way off. As these students did not have the method of training for the next stage, they went out to explore, causing much commotion. Lu Li continued training even though he was extremely disappointed. As Lu Shu and Jiang Shui were walking around the military camp aimlessly, Lu Shu was constantly updated with distress points from Lu Li. There were even more points than what Lu Li provided him with yesterday. He didn't understand what was happening as he didn't know what Lu Li was feeling. Lu Li's feeling now was like being a person in a rush but stepping into a puddle of feces. He was afraid of the possibility of not being able to catch up with the rest. Lu Shu calculated his distress point balance. He had about 20,000 points now, and 40 celestial fruits were required for the 4th star while 80 were needed for the 5th one. He was still quite far away from 80 celestial fruits. Just then, Lu Li's hysterical laughter echoed over from Lu Shu's campsite. Lu Shu is there. Jiang Shui watched silently and thought Lu Shu was really unrivaled, turning a prodigy into a loser. The time he took to complete his training was slower than those with Tier C aptitude by 1 day. But for some reason, he felt that Lu Shu was quite indifferent towards training. It was like he really was waiting to arm wrestle Lu Li. Chapter 119. Through Lu Li's loud shout, Luocheng's Daoyuan students guessed that Lu Li must have broken through. When he mastered the mysterious senses chapter, it meant that he will overpower the F-class Lu Shu completely. Everyone was actually rather happy since they wanted to see him in trouble, having given in to him for the past few days. The remaining students didn't suffer much from Lu Shu, and what Lu Shu did to them didn't really warrant a fight. Lu Li, on the other hand, was different as their feud started from a long time ago. The accumulated animosity towards each other was not to be fully blamed on either of them. If you claimed that Lu Shu was wrong, what did Lu Shu do to deserve to be an underling of Lu Li? Just because he had Tier B aptitude while Lu Shu was F? No way. At this stage of high school, it didn't mean that you would have underlings and followers if you were rich or strong. But if you were to say that Lu Li was at fault, no one would think that he did much wrong. Since nothing life-threatening would happen in school, everyone joined in the commotion. Class rep, arm wrestle him. You have to beat him this time, don't let him be so arrogant. Yes, you have to suppress him. Surrounding students looked joyous and were stirring a commotion. Lu Shu came back and the people around him, with nothing to do, joined in the commotion. Lu Shu, awaken once more. Actually, this was done mockingly and out of fun. No one expected Lu Shu to awaken again from arm wrestling. After all, awakening wasn't done through merely arm wrestling since so many other students tried their luck with Lu Li after the previous incident. Lu Li's face at this moment was totally black. By his logic, he would always train ahead of other students and everyone would envy him as he completes each training. But now, many people completed their training ahead of him. It was unbelievable. Lu Shu came over amicably. What's up, class rep? You want to arm wrestle? Lu Li turned red from his anger and gritted his teeth. No, not arm wrestle. Let's fight. Lu Shu was stunned. Was Lu Li afraid that he might induce his awakening if they arm wrestled? Eventually, Shi Fei stood up. There should be harmony within students as you might become colleagues and comrades in future. Why are you fighting? Just arm wrestle to settle the problem. Shake hands and become friends after arm wrestling. Lu Li was annoyed beyond comprehension. Why didn't he care when Lu Shu was disturbing him earlier? In fact, there wasn't fairness in this world. Shi Fei was already frowning when Lu Li insulted Lu Shu's poor family background on the first day here. Shi Fei came from a poor family as well. He joined the network as he couldn't afford the fees for the first year of university. On the first day of joining the network, he was thankful for the good food compared to the food he got at home. So Lu Li's hurtful words weren't received well by Shi Fei. Also, Shi Fei felt better about Lu Shu when the latter stood up for the soldiers, so when Lu Shu annoyed Lu Li, Shi Fei didn't bother to stop the matter at all. Lu Li thought carefully. Actually, Lu Shu's awakening the previous time was just a coincidence and it wasn't caused by arm wrestling. Now that Shi Fei was here, they couldn't fight and so he decided, let's arm wrestle then. Daoyuan class control over the students was already very strong as the students had to rely on the teachings and resources of Daoyuan class to get stronger. Just like this time. If you were expelled from Daoyuan class, even if you had the ability, you wouldn't be able to come to this plot of ancient remains to train. That's why the students had to stay tight to Daoyuan class, or the heavenly network. Towards training, this was what everyone agreed on. All except for Lu Shu. Under Shi Fei's supervision, the two of them half-knelt on the floor and got into the stance for arm wrestling. It wasn't suitable for them to arm wrestle on a table as any normal table would break at any moment. Their hands firmly gripped onto each other. Lu Li had already made plans to exert all his strength at the start and to injure Lu Shu using his superior strength. Even though he couldn't fight to hurt Lu Shu, he could injure him over arm wrestling and no one would say anything. Begin. At this moment, everyone turned silent and stared at the two of them who were arm wrestling. They stared in disbelief as Lu Shu's arm quickly smashed downwards. I'm awakening again. Lu Shu began his act. The students at the side continued staring in disbelief. No one expected Lu Shu to awaken once more, and he did so extremely casually, going on to win the arm wrestling competition eventually. Thinking of Lu Shu's toxic tongue, and then thinking of Lu Shu as a Class E strength-type metahuman, perhaps none of the other students would be able to suppress him. Now that he had completed the Mysterious Senses chapter, some people even thought that he would be able to silence Lu Shu, but now. How much strength did a Class E strength-type metahuman have at his peak? 2,400 kilograms. One punch would kill you, do you believe it? At this point, everyone turned to face Lu Li. Why did he not listen and arm wrestle Lu Shu? Now, this had happened. Who would dare say anything to Lu Shu in future? Everyone forgot that they themselves contributed to this battle themselves, and continued to blame Lu Li's immaturity. Lu Li could not believe it. He stared at his arm, then at Lu Shu's. His strength was real. Did he really awaken again? Shi Fei watched in intrigue from the side. Only after the Heavenly Network did thorough research did they understand that awakening was not an easy feat. For example, the criminal who awakened that night belonged to only a handful of metahumans who could awaken. And Lu Shu actually awakened twice from arm wrestling. Shi Fei said to Lu Shu, "Come, let's arm wrestle." Lu Shu beat Shi Fei without much effort. Shi Fei started calculating in his heart. It was strength that only a Class E awakened metahuman could attain. If he was merely a practitioner, he wouldn't have the theory or resources to reach such a level. He couldn't have attained this level through training by himself. Awakened metahumans were representative of the highest level. Awakening was tough, but it wasn't absolutely impossible. There was a type of people on Earth who were described to possess physiques which could allow them to awaken with ease. But this seemed really too effortless. Chapter 120. In the past, if some people didn't believe Lu Shu could awaken from arm wrestling Lu Li, they had to believe it now. People who had not arm wrestled Lu Li before placed the emphasis on Lu Li. Could they awaken if they arm wrestle Lu Li? There was a slight possibility. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was constantly gaining distress points not just from Lu Li but also from a large number of people around him. Just from this short event, his total distress points increased from around 20,000 to more than 30,000. Lu Li really is my lucky star. Lu Shu said with a face full of smiles. He continued beaming at the thought of gathering almost a third of the resources to light up his fifth star in such a short while. Lu Shu could now openly use his Class E abilities, while his Celestial Map and Corpse Dog had to stay hidden as of now. Lu Shu felt that it was important and nothing wrong for him to keep his cards hidden and to keep his secrets safe from everyone. They had already been here for 5 days, but the ancient remains still remained closed. Li Yixiao stood atop the mountain every day, staring seriously and not even moving. Just last night, gunshots echoed from the mountain before dead silence arrived again. Lu Shu thought that this might be due to unknown metahumans planning to sneak into this restricted area. This was such a huge mountain, so there was bound to be a loophole somewhere. It was something which could not be helped. There were already battles even before the ancient remain was open. What would happen once it opens? In the afternoon, the students who had completed the Mysterious Matter chapter advanced to the Mysterious Senses chapter together. Those who completed the Mysterious Senses chapter, however, did not receive the next part of training. Apparently, amongst all the Luocheng Daoyuan students, only Chao Qingxi, the only student with Tier A aptitude, received the next part of training. Could it be that there were certain limits to what they were imparting? But why did Chao Qingxi get to learn it? Were they prioritizing him because of his superior aptitude? Jiang Shuyi and Lu Shu were still wandering about in the military camp. Jiang Shuyi was more reserved and didn't interact much with other students, unlike Lu Shu, who was worlds apart from Jiang Shuyi. He could be seen chatting not only with students but with soldiers as well. Jiang Shuyi did not really understand. Did you really awaken from arm wrestling against Lu Li? It didn't have to be him. I feel that it's when my strength reaches a bottleneck, especially when I want to exert even more strength, I would awaken. After all, I just didn't want to lose to Lu Li. Lu Shu lied without even blinking an eye. Jiang Shuyi listened in awe. That's really impressive. Just then, a huge fog came towards the mountain, spreading all over the area. The white fog was thick and nothing could be made out inside. Everyone was stunned and looked towards the origin of the fog. The soldiers scurried frantically to await their next orders, while form teachers of Daoyuan class started gathering students from their class. The original relaxed ambience of the military camp was now gone, while Li Yixiao maintained his original position, looking at everything from atop the mountain. What's supposed to be here is finally here. Li Yixiao looked at the thick fog from the mountain. He had witnessed many openings of ancient remains and had plenty of experience. This thick fog was actually the boundary of the ancient remain, but it didn't mean that however big the fog was, the world in it would be as big. He called these ancient remains little worlds. The area inside was unable to be judged to be big or small from the outside. Only by entering the fog would know the true size of what was inside. This fog looked extremely thick, just like a huge bubble. There was a layer on the outside, and whoever walked in would appear at a random spot at the other small world, just like everyone was taking a different path. The world would only dissipate and people could only exit when the relic of the ancient remains was obtained. Until then, there was no way out for everyone inside. The Heavenly Network didn't know where these ancient remains originated and why they formed. But they did know that everything within the ancient remains was breathtakingly amazing. Their camp was situated in a rather safe position, about a kilometer from the thick fog. However, Li Yixiao suddenly sensed that something was wrong and frowned as he scanned the area. He felt that something was wrong indeed. This ancient remain was very different and it seemed much bigger than others. The thick fog was still expanding without signs of slowing down, so he shouted, "Everyone! Start retreating from the mountain. Quick! Leave your belongings." Everyone was stunned. What was the situation? Why the sudden retreat? The soldiers had to abide by instructions and had no choice but to retreat without any explanation. Although Daoyuan students were all over the place, they abided by the instructions as well. There weren't enough vehicles to transport everyone as everyone came in batches. There were only a few trucks, so everyone could only rely on their legs to dash down the mountain. But at this moment, the thick fog started expanding even quicker. It was like a huge wave gathering momentum towards the shore. Li Yixiao didn't care anymore. He was the first one to be sucked into the remain. The remaining students and soldiers were blanketed into the fog at the same time. The thick, white fog only stopped when it reached the foot of the mountain. Civilians of Luocheng looked at the mountain. The entire mountain was swallowed by the fog and it was a sight to behold. Lu Shu followed everyone's retreat, but the fog was too quick and he felt that he could not outrun the fog no matter how hard he tried. The fog enveloped everyone in it. Suddenly, everything could not be seen and Lu Shu reached his hand out for Jiang Shui, but to no avail. After a short period of time, he found himself in a foreign place. Beneath him were yellow soil and wild grass. Not far away was a green mountain, but all this was never before seen to him. At this point in time, Lu Shu heard a sound from behind him. Instinctively, he ducked by bending his waist. An unknown object whizzed past his head, missing it by an inch. Only then did he have the time to access the situation. He was shocked beyond comprehension. Behind him was a skeleton chasing him with an axe. Damn, was this the legend of the living skeleton? Although he had some sort of mental preparation, Lu Shu panicked when he really met such an occasion. But the skeleton was not quick compared to Lu Shu. Lu Shu looked at the skeleton and deduced that it was in the middle of Class F based on its strength, while he himself was already in the middle of Class D. If this thing didn't have any other weapon up its arsenal, Lu Shu could easily defeat it.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, and we just put them on the show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we better.